You have not the slightest proof of anything.
But I have my certainty. And armed with that, I will go to your last parish and the one before that, if necessary. I will find a parent. Trust me, I will. A parent who probably doesn't know that you are still working with children. And once I do that, you will be exposed. You may even be attacked, metaphorically or otherwise.
You have no right to act on your own. You're a member of a religious order. You have taken vows. Obedience being one, you answer to us.
This is Theater Talk. I'm Susan Haskins. So we had the playwright John Patrick Shanley on a couple of months ago, and he briefly mentioned something that was coming called Doubt, which now is the most marvelous play of the season, and we're very glad he's back with two of his co-stars here to introduce them. My co-star, Michael Riedel of the New York Post.
Doubt isn't just the best play of the season, it's one of the best plays I've ever seen. It has transferred from the Manhattan Theater Club to the Walter Kerr Theater, opening this week on Broadway. We are very happy to have John Patrick Shanley back to Theater Talk.
Welcome. That's very nice. But this time I brought reinforcements.
Yeah, yes. You brought friends. You brought friends who give, I must say, two colossally good performances in this play. Cherry Jones, welcome to Theater Talk for the first time. We're happy to have you here.
Thank you, Michael. Susan.
And Brian O'Byrne, who was here when you were on Broadway in The Lonesome West a few years ago.
That's correct. Good to be back.
Welcome back. All right, Cherry, in this play you are playing a tough, severe nun who suspects Brian, who's playing a priest, of having an inappropriate relationship with one of his students. Mm-hmm. The play is called Doubt, but you have no doubt about this.
No.
Not at all.
Not really.
You don't have much evidence for this, though.
No.
What is the sense that you have?
It's again the question of what can we say and what can't we say. But you find out in the course of the play mm-hmm. that she has some information, no evidence whatsoever, but some information that has convinced her in her heart that there is a real possibility that a child is in jeopardy. Mm-hmm. And if that child is in jeopardy, it means that other children could be in jeopardy. No evidence, but this is not a woman who lives in a democracy. She lives in an institution that is failing mm-hmm.
itself. The play to me is also about the trickle-down effects of corruption. Mm-hmm. And because the hierarchy of the institution is corrupt on this issue, it corrupts her in a way, you know, because she cares so about the children. So she has to make a judgment and act on it. Mm-hmm. And what I found most interesting is that demographically there is one group who almost 99% of the time thinks that the nun has behaved appropriately, and it's young mothers. Mm. It doesn't matter how liberal, how enlightened, how compassionate, whether their grandparents were taken into the hearings during the McCarthy era, they all think the nun did the right thing. It's in the hormones, I guess.
Are there some in the audience you find who don't think the nun did the right thing?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And where are they coming from in that point of view? Your point of view, I guess. That
Well,
you're
of course,
unfairly accused.
Everything that Cherry just said is complete rubbish. Let's just start with that, in case viewers think, gosh, it's great to see Cherry Jones in Theatre Talk finally, and she basically starts off and she talks complete nonsense. This is a play about a priest who has been wrongfully accused
by this crazy nun.
Of this horrendous, the most horrendous thing you could accuse somebody of, without any proof whatsoever. This is a really wonderful priest who, it's set in 1964, which John has said it in, which is a fascinating time for the church, and I guess in America as well. Set in the Bronx in 1964, just after, or towards the end of the Second Vatican Council, where the church has become much more secular. The masses are in the vernacular languages, and this priest has embraced Vatican II, and he's the new face of the Catholic Church. Face of the Catholic Church. They're facing the congregation, and this guy is to the front of I won't say touchy-feely in case it's taken up in the wrong sense,
Right.
but of this whole new open movement, confronted with a battle axe.
So he's akin to the homicidal maniac that you won the Tony for playing last
He is,
season, right?
couldn't be further from, could not be anywhere further. She is or he is.
He is.
No, he couldn't be further from
He's
it.
confronted by a woman who doesn't agree with where the church is going to go, and cannot stand to sort of see him as the new face of the church.
It's quite threatening
To her.
to a complete belief system, I think, and that therein lies the whole tension.
Yeah, well, it looks like they've figured out the play. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better conflict and tension in this this performance and this chemistry.
They're both wandering in the dark, hoping to figure something out.
All right, you want to enlighten us and tell
Well,
us
I mean,
what
you
the
know,
play's
the
about?
point of being an actor is to inhabit a position, to inhabit a character, and to see things from that point of view. And one of the jobs of the playwright is to have these two characters oppose each other, and through opposition, through that friction, through the fire that's created, illuminate a third thing that is neither of the points of view of the individuals involved.
And what is that third thing?
Well, you know, for me, uncertainty is something that should be accepted as part of life, be learned to live with, and is in fact something that creates a volatile present tense ability to enter the moment. And I think it's been lost in our culture at this time, or undervalued to a severe degree, and that it is the province of the wise, not the weak, to be uncertain. And it does not lessen a person's effectiveness or ability to be passionate to be uncertain.
Yet, I find Cherry's character, Sister, what is her name?
Aloysius.
Aloysius. She has, there's no uncertainty there, and yet I find her an incredibly wise character. As tough as she is, there's great sensitivity and wisdom that she has towards these children that she's in charge of.
Oh, first of all, I admire Sister Aloysius greatly, and then, you know, Cherry's kind of a transformational actress where, you know, she crawled inside of this person and slowly became somebody else.
Really, then from what you've written?
No, in addition to, you know, that's what an actor does. They don't just, you know, do what you want them to do. They bring a whole other level to it. They, you know, they add the third dimension. And it's certainly the mandate of the writer to let them do that and not to inhibit them and hold them back from being everything that they can be in the part.
So when I saw Doubt, there was no question in my mind but that you were absolutely right. And I championed, and I championed you. I thought, wow, Shanley's written this play where for once we're seeing that the woman's intuition is, you know, let's respect it because it's so. But you're saying that's not in what you wrote?
I certainly,
that you wrote more ambiguity?
I certainly respect Sister Aloysius'
But are
intuition,
you ambiguous?
and I am comfortable with the fact that I cannot be certain that she is right.
Interesting.
We would poll the audience at talkbacks just for our own amusement,
Yes.
really, to see how we'd done that day. You know? And
turn up the
you know, and half of the audience would think she was right. Half of the I'm just saying generally.
Yeah, no, it was
Really?
actually, it was the thirds. It was one third thought that she was right,
Yes.
one third thought he was right, and one third had doubt.
Well,
Really?
I would
Interesting.
say actually, generally, that those who had doubt was usually a much smaller handful of people.
Do you think
and they
so?
were the people I always wanted to go out to dinner with, you know, because I felt like, oh, they're my people, you know, people with doubt. Because how could anyone know seeing this play?
Well, you
and
won't-
yet
yeah.
people are so. I mean, when the lights came down on me one night, and a woman on the front row, as the lights faded, said, "May she burn in hell." You know, and
Wow.
you think, how,
Brienne's
how-
mother.
My mother, yeah.
But couples who have been together for 50 years would turn to each other in those talkbacks, looking at each other like total strangers, irate that their partner could think.
You know what is fun is that, and it's echoing what John said, and like despite the two of us just taking these adversarial positions, which we do constantly just for our own amusement and fun, is that notion of doubt after the show. I haven't really never seen it with audience members before. They come up and they seem as if they've got this fresh blast of wind or something. They're alive and they're like going, I don't know. and they need to know, and then they have to sit with this, but it invigorates them rather than like, ha ha, I know, and that reaffirms what I thought. It reaffirms my own beliefs. Instead, John has fashioned this fantastic piece that
Really
it enlivens people for conversation afterwards, and that is really like, I mean, it's beyond. People don't really talk about, certainly to me, or about the characters as much as about the play and their response to it
And the moral dilemma.
Yeah.
But when you worked on the character, do you ever explore the fact that you are a child molester, or do you go from the sanctimonious? No,
I know the background. We did a good thing, interestingly. When I knew that I was going to be doing it, I talked to Doug, and I said, Doug
Hughes, the director.
Doug Hughes, our fantastic director. When we go into rehearsals, if we talk about this guy's backstory, that the ladies are never in the room. So the actresses are never in the room.
So you won't tell us if you explore being a child molester.
But since it's theatre talk,
You won't tell.
I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
Not a chance. Buy your tickets, come and make your own decisions.
We made him swear that
On the
closing
last
night.
night, I'm
Closing
going to
night.
tell.
You're going to tell her
How you
Sherry
see
and
it.
Eddie,
if she was
yeah.
right, if her suspicions were correct, you're going to let her know.
Of course, John is hoping that we'll both be in our mid-60s at that point.
That's right. One thing that I, from my own, because I think this is a play that you're going to have a personal reaction to, and you probably will. I wouldn't be in the 1/3 doubters. I'm afraid I'd be on Cherry's side in this. I'm sorry, Brian, you're outnumbered here.
The cameramen are going to nodding. They're saying, the cameramen believe me. I can see that.
Guys believe you. But what I'm struck by in the final speech in the play, when you say, I have such doubts. This is how I read it. Please correct me if I'm wrong. It's not a question that you have doubts about what he's done. You have doubts about having given your life to this institution, to this church, that has simply shuffled him along to another parish. That's where your doubts are.
I really hate to talk about the last
Yes,
moment because
yes.
I think it's such a it's quite a moment he's crafted,
And it's so open.
And what I think is wonderful is that I think I can say is that he has allowed this character growth. And that's all I want to say about it. That he's given her a tremendous arc that one could not imagine.
There's a phenomenon that I think most of us have experienced at one time or another, where we are entrenched and we defend a position, and we do it while underneath, emotionally and spiritually, we are moving. And yet it is not yet connected to our voice box. And then the moment comes when it is. And that is a powerful moment. And for me, that's the moment of life, rather than dogma. Not simply speaking in terms of a church, but in terms of people speaking to each other and showing up right here, right now, as a human being.
How did this play come about? I mean, what was the sort of seed for it in your mind?
It was twofold. First, that I felt that I was in the culture of, at this time, of debate, and that people I saw on television and in the streets and politically all were entrenched in arguing positions and not really listening and being affected by the people around them, which I thought was deeply alienating. And second, that I went to a Catholic school in the Bronx back in the early 60s as a child, that was sort of a moment, I thought, when the culture started to shift from a Victorian kind of Manichaean, black and white culture to a more spacious and open culture.
And these are the two poles that they represent.
Yeah, and not without a cost of blood. And not without something being lost that was incredibly valuable.
But there's such a love of the nuns.
But that's what
coming
I
from
like
you.
very much about it, yeah.
It's just, I mean, it's just, it's
I mean, I like
wonderful.
this notion that these traditions shouldn't be cast off. These traditions are greater than human beings. They've been around longer than
Standards, I think
standards.
is
Exactly right.
is the word.
And you don't just cast them off lightly. You don't, cut your cloth to suit the fashions of the day. Is that your position in this play?
It certainly is.
Boy, she's tough to fight against. How did these two come to the play? Did just regular audition process, or did you have them in mind?
The first 4 actors couldn't do it, had different commitments. And then we got asked
tried everybody I knew. And then Doug said, there's a couple of people. Brian was in it from the first read-through of the play, which was had nothing to do with this current production. It was just for me to hear it. And Doug Hughes had worked with Brian previously, so there was a relationship there, and so that was a natural and organic thing. And then Doug had worked with Cherry. I actually knew very little of her work. I had seen her in a Shaw play that the Roundabout did, and thought she was great. But other than that, I didn't really know her work. And so Doug brought her name up, and I said, well, do you think she's not sort of known for this kind of part? Is this something she'd be good at? And he said, oh, yeah, I think she'd kill in this part. I said,
you can attest to that, Brian.
And, she exceeded my fondest hopes.
Those of us who are familiar with your work, when you come out on that stage, it's just, wow, that's Cherry Jones, because you've so transformed yourself. You look far older than you are.
Nothing like putting on a Halloween costume.
A big old hat,
a big old hat, that nice ribbon bonnet, so we get those double folds going.
Did the costume help you work with the character, or in serious? I know you're kidding, but seriously, I mean, we had Harvey Firestein here a couple weeks ago who said, "I got the boots, and then I could be Tevye." So,
well, no, I mean, we started working very early on in Cossacks and bonnets and things, because we knew that it was.
And your glasses.
And my glasses, my glasses. Yeah, I worked very early on with my glasses, and that was. In fact, I almost wanted to take my glasses home with me on the interim because I was afraid they might get lost in the movie.
It's funny, I'm not used to seeing her because I don't see her until she's got her bonnet on. You know, I go into the dressing room and say, hey, check out, and then afterwards we go our separate ways. So I'm always surprised to see Cherry so beautiful and soft. I'm like, no,
not so scary.
Yeah, not this adversary.
A small technical point. You have this nun, but she makes a point that she was married before she became a nun. Yes. Why did you make the nun be married before she was a nun?
Actually, the Sisters of Charity were founded by Mother Seton, and Mother Seton was married and had 5 children before she started the order. The full title of it was the Sisters of Charity of New Jersey originally. Guess it wasn't that catchy, and so they shortened it to the Sisters of Charity. I wanted her to have some connection to both sides of life, and to have made a choice rather than have no knowledge of this other side of life, the private sector, as it were.
No, I think it's another example of just incredibly well-crafted play that you have to say, well, I may disagree with this woman, I may be on Brian's side, but it's not that this woman is speaking from no experience, from isolation of human sexuality.
And a beautiful thing that John's included as well, which is her husband, who we just listened to, we get very briefly in a couple of sentences, has actually died in the Second World War, fighting against an evil. Put it that way, but it's just John the play is littered with these one-liners that give huge life to not just the characters but to the currency of the time. Remarkable play.
I mentioned, Brian, that you had won a Tony for playing a homicidal maniac in Frozen, and you first came to to Theater Talk in True West, where you weren't playing a homicidal maniac, but you were playing a disturbed young man.
Are you ever going to play one normal?
Yeah. Are you? Oh no, you're worried you're being typecast.
This guy is very normal.
Oh, this is Brian's character, and as he plays him, is extremely sociable, engaging, outgoing guy.
That's what makes him terrifying to me. That's why she's suspicious, precisely because he's so
paranoid.
It's
time to go.
It's amazing because Brian can have so much fun with this part, because if he feels that the audience is too much with him, he can give it a little bit of this, and if they're not with him, he turns into Little Mary Sunshine. My job is made a lot harder. But he has a good bit of leeway, and we have to talk. I know you all will, but we have to talk about Heather Goldenhirsch and Adrienne Lennox.
Your co-stars of this play.
Unbelievable.
One playing a young sister whom you are training.
Right.
in the old ways.
And who, in a way, takes the role of the audience a little bit, too,
Yes.
of being tossed between the two of us.
Who is very attracted to him, I mean, who falls for your charisma and your humor and your warmth, and yet, I guess she's a little scared of you, but respects you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other
Adrienne
actress,
Lennox.
I'm sorry, is Adrienne
Lennox.
Lennox, wonderful as the mother of
Yeah.
the child, who takes a very interesting position in this play. I mean, can we say what
No,
it is?
don't say what
No,
it is.
no.
Don't say what it is.
Yeah, no, but she comes in the you know, just a little bit later than you'd think there'd be something new in the play, and
Yeah.
sort of kicks it into another
Yes.
gear
Yeah.
that sort of leaves your head spinning, and then there's another scene immediately following that is a very high stakes scene between these two old sluggers, and that the hope is that that's what puts it over the top.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then that gorgeous coda, which I remember reading the final scene of the play and thinking, well, this is just underwritten. He's just got to add something to this, because I think it's, what, 15 lines at the
It's
most
not
or
much,
something?
yeah.
And I remember when I first read it, I thought, and then, of course, it truly is perfection, that final scene. It's everything and nothing more.
I'm interested in something that you said, and since I have two of our best stage actors around, maybe you can enlighten me a bit more on this. This phrase you use, that Cherry crawls into the character in ways you don't expect. Is that a good way of describing how an actor approaches a role, Brian? Crawls into a character and then transforms into something else? Is that a
I'm
good
sure.
approach to
I'm
work?
sure it's different for everybody, you know, but I would hope it would be, you know.
How do you do it?
I hope I do it by getting things wrong consistently. That there's no other wrong way to do it, and that turns out to be usually the right way then. But usually, I just keep doing things until Cherry knows I'm constantly. I want to do it again and try things differently and try it differently, and then it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong, and then you go, okay, this is the right way.
Something specific from this play that you kept getting wrong about this character that you had to reject to find the right path?
Well, it's small things. Yeah, it's remarkable how tiny little things can change moments in a scene. That as an actor, you might bring as an actor, like we have a moment in the play which wasn't written, and that I come in and sit down in a chair. And like initially I was like, oh, I think we should do this. And an audience gets, immediately goes, this is a male-dominated society and all this. And that's just a physical thing, but there are physical things in the play where, by just touching your face or giving clues away, because this is a play where people are sitting on the edge of their seats waiting, trying to figure it out, which of course is, John is giving us this chance to figure things out, and it's not about that in a lot of ways.
Right.
But I think that for me, you know, I tend to look differently in a lot of different plays that I do, and I think of myself differently physically, and I think of myself vocally different in all those things in trying to inhabit the character. So I guess it's crawling to, we've got this shape that we think we see, this blurry shape. We jump inside and then try and fit it on, but because you're dealing with, each of us are different, we have to pull it tighter to ourselves to take on this different shape.
And with you, Cherry, props are important. The glasses, you said?
Well, I think when something feels so far away as this one certainly did, and I was terrified the closer we got to the first day of rehearsal, I thought, I am out of my mind if I think I'm going to get away with this. But I know that what I do is I sometimes try to build myself a physical home. If I build the house, then maybe someone will move in, you know? And so I do start both physically and emotionally together, but I'm very, very conscious of the tempo of the character and the speech and the rhythms and I mean, it's all there. I mean, I knew as a Tennessee Methodist when I read that play that they had to be from the Bronx. And I was, of course, hoping that maybe they didn't really have to be from the Bronx. When he said that they did, I thought, of course, it's going to make it so much more rich, and you're going to be able to smell everything that much more. And so the Bronx accent, which this one has mastered, Mr. Ireland over here, it was a real challenge for those of us in the play who've never done a Bronx accent before.
All right, we got to wrap it up, but polling this crowd, Brian, you're a charming, charismatic priest in this play, but I wouldn't send my son to your school. And I'm all for the standards and the traditions upheld by Cherry Jones. Susan, your opinion there?
Absolutely. I'm rooting for Cherry all the way.
I'm sorry, we've undermined the whole point of the play. There's no doubt. But anyway, it's a terrific play,
Really.
intensely dramatic, and it does. It will leave you with questions, maybe not about this particular incident, but questions about the church and the world. John Patrick Shanley, Cherry Jones, Brian O'Byrne, thanks for being our guest on Theater Talk.
Great to be here.
Thank you. Now you're going to get lots of letters saying that you're a
Good.
complete idiot.
Right.
Yes, because you